Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler.
What is up, Lock Shoppers? This is the Lock Shop here at Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports, presented by Play Alberta. Matt Iwanyk with you here in for Dustin Nielson. He was in Winnipeg last night calling the Elks loss to the Bombers. He's now currently in Regina getting set to call the Rough Riders and the BC Lions, which takes place tomorrow out in BC. Gonna need to speak to Huss on this one, that game tomorrow. Some changes that have occurred. Trev, I think you're going to need to bring my camera down. My head's cut off. We're going to, we'll get into it with us once he comes here. But they're changing a quarterback. It's been moving. I think Reed's going to get mad at me right away because I'm going to have to change my pick and something for a second time. But we will talk some Canadian Football League with Huss. Obviously, once he comes on, we will talk about the Bombers and Elks. Gold Cup action, Money in the Bank, NHL draft. Lots to get to on the Lock Shop today. Want to remind you of our promo codes with Play Alberta. Head to the app or download the app or head to playalberta.ca. $50 free bet when you deposit 20 or more using EST Sports. Deposit 20 or more and use EST Casino for a $50 casino bonus, or use YEG50, YEG50 when you deposit 5 or more for a $50 free bet as well. Right now, up in the EST specials on Play Alberta. Lock Shop parlay from yesterday still holds. Owls to win, Lions to win, Argos and Red Blacks under 53.5 points. No Chad Kelly for the Argos. He's going to be out until at least week 7. Ottawa Red Blacks, we'll get the depth chart officially tomorrow. They should have one more practice day. We'll see. It looks like maybe Dustin Crumb's going to be starter. That's why we're taking the under in that one. The BC Lions have listed Nathan Rourke as a game-time decision. The Riders have taken out Trevor Harris as their starting quarterback. He's going to be out injured. Jake Mayer going to get his first career start with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders as a rider. He's obviously played with Calgary. In Montreal with McLeod Bethel Thompson in Hamilton take on the Ticats later tonight. That's plus 610. Dusty has thrown up his early bird bet, which is the Ticats plus 3.5. So to cover, and Bo Levi 275 plus passing yards. That's plus 142. And his play of the day, Roger McQueen and Victor Eklund to both be drafted in the top 10 of the NHL draft. That is plus 330. Once again, just head to playalberta.ca or download the app, click on ESD specials. It's where you could get the promo codes for that. Hernan is here. I don't know if he's fired. Yeah, you can't see if he's too fired up right now. But he's going to, we've seen the Trent Frederick deal. It's 8 by 3.85. We also now know that there's a no move clause. Hernan just rolled his eyes at me. He just rolled his eyes at me. He's not going to be happy when it comes on EST afternoons. I can see it. That was my first chance to see what Hernan thinks of the no move clause. 1 to 3 o'clock today. I'm going to say tune in. Hernan Salas is going to be a little spicy when it comes to this Trent Frederick deal. Oh, yeah. I'm actually, for the other sake, I don't get the no move clause for 4 years, and then it's a 10-team no trade clause, or for years 5 and 6, and 7 and 8, it's a 20-team. But I'm also excited that they gave it to him just to see Hernan right now and see how fired up Hernan is going to be today. Yeah. Your thoughts always going to be welcome. That's in the nasty chat. You could text us 780 20 to 218-9999. With that, let's bring in Huss if we're ready to go. Trev, are we going to be ready? Perfect. There he is with his WST hat on. Huss is here. Huss, how are we doing today?
Doing very well, Matty. That was a little piece of football heaven last night in the Peg. I mean, an absolutely perfect evening, sold out crowd, a heck of a football game too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is kind of funny when you look at if you didn't watch the game, you're like, oh, Bombers won by double digits and covered again. That really wasn't the story of the game. I mean, that was very much in doubt in the fourth quarter. And then the Bombers, as good teams do, they found a way to win, put an exclamation mark on it late. But listen, that was what the CFL is all about right there. And if you could bottle that and get that into some of the other markets, this league would be in a very, very good space. But let me ask you, from an Edmonton perspective, what are the takeaways from the Elks? I mean, I'm not sure how many people expected them to win that football game. There were some things I think you can take away from it, but at the same time, this is a results-based business. This team is still 0-3 going into that crucial home game next week that you brought up yesterday.
Yeah, it's there's a range of emotions that I'll take you through from yesterday. Because for my pregame show, the question I threw out there is, are moral victories good enough for the Elks last night? Or was that going to be the case? If you walk away saying like the Elks showed improvement, if they played, offensively showed a flow, defensively made some stops, is that good enough? Or is it's a results-based business? You just need wins. And actually, a surprising amount of people were saying to me like, no, if they see the proper improvements and growth, that they could live with that, knowing who they were going up against, knowing where they were going up against that team as well in Winnipeg. As the game went through and we got to the end of the third quarter, and you sit there and it's 23-23. The Elks offense had done, for the most part, a really good job. A couple of mistakes offensively, Rankin fumbling the ball in field goal territory. Julian Grant with a huge drop at the end of the second half that hits his face mask, needs to grab that touchdown.
That was tough.
Yeah, that's back-to-back weeks late in the game where they've messed it, or late in the half. And Jay and I looked at each other like, okay, maybe we could have a moral victories discussion tonight like this. And we thought the Elks, though, could possibly go win this football game. It's 23-23. But then that fourth quarter happens. And, it was on the Bombers' perspective, good teams go and they find a way to get it done and they turn it on. And the Bombers didn't have a great third quarter. I think they'll be the first ones to tell you that wasn't their quarter. It was tied game. And then they took over that game. And they went out and they got the points that they needed. They got the scores that they needed. Then they ran out enough clock that they needed to go win that football game. And the Elks went the other way. Offensively, they couldn't get anything done. They couldn't get first downs. It was weird that throughout the game, it was some really good, proper drives called by Jordan McSimic. And then all of a sudden, it was like they were playing Madden style, where it was just let's throw it deep, let's throw it deep, let's throw it deep, and it wasn't working. And then they're coming off the field, and then the defense, who had a great third quarter. The Bombers' 4 offensive drives in the third quarter were punt, 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 punt for I think it was 16 total yards.
Yeah.
Then now partly this is now because the defense was off the field a lot, but then they got lit up. Then they allowed Zach Collaros to run for a 13-yard touchdown where he made himself look like Trey Forder, made himself look like Nathan Rourke, eluding defenders and then getting into that end zone. And it was frustrating. In the end, it was like they withered away. When you needed to rise, like the Bombers did, like the Bombers do, what good teams do in those late moments, those critical drives to rise up, the Elks went the other way. And they took the step back. And, Julian Grant had another, there was a blitz from the Bombers, I remember, in the fourth quarter. It was a 3-point ball game. And Trey stood in the pocket. He put a throw that after the game, he says, maybe it was a little too hard. But it was to Julian Grant, and he was right there. And I had to pause. I had to go find the replay. It went right through his hands. It was like this, and it went through his hands. And it's like the Bombers receivers last night were making those catches. The Elks weren't. So in the end, it was like, I see the positives. I could see them going to beat Ottawa on July 6th. Like, they can go beat some of these teams, but it's also like, the Bombers are a great football team. We saw that. But the Elks almost kind of dropped the ball a little bit yesterday. Where they imagine if they walk away with a win. Imagine if they're 1-2 and how that could get the season going. So there are moral victories, but I think at least for Jay and I, there was a lot of disappointment because in the fourth quarter, when you really want to see the team step up with where they were, 23-23, they didn't do that, and that fight wasn't there.
Yeah, the very different story. Excuse me, from last week when they were down by 20 odd points, and then all of a sudden they started, taking advantage of score effects, whatever you want to call it, and made it close at the end. Their third quarter was phenomenal. I mean, you get the ball, bang, 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 in the end zone, and then the defense stepped up. And I will tell you straight up, there were a lot of nervous faces around that sold-out crowd yesterday when the Elks, had gotten back into the game, and Winnipeg had sort of been put into neutral. But I mean, I won't put this on the Elks as much as I'm just going to give credit to the Bombers for stepping up and raising their level of play. And Zach Collaros, there was a couple throws maybe he'd like back, but overall, I mean, he passed for, what was it, like 85% completion rate?
I think he 83? Had 5 incompletions in that football game. Yeah,
25 of 30, over 300 yards. But the exclamation mark was definitely that 13-yard scamper right in front of us in the north end zone.
Is that where you are?
Yeah, that's where I was for the second half. I got mixed it up with some of the crazies last night afterwards in the North End move around. It was really fun. But I mean, listen, Zach, I think that, he missed the first game, played well at times, but certainly had another gear in that BC game. And Mike O'Shea said as much, not singling out the quarterback, but the offense overall. And listen, they got things going. How about Nick Dembski?
Yeah.
We weren't even sure to put him in fantasy lineups because he was a game time decision. And, 2 big touchdowns. Dalton Schoen hits his over. We saw a little bit more Jarrett Stearns for the first time he was involved in. And then, Matthew Paterson, I was talking to, was it Eddie Steele? And he was mentioning, listen, as a former player, it's the line of scrimmage that he's looking at to begin that game. And I thought the Elks held their own for most of the first 3 quarters on it. I mean, the Bombers certainly weren't running all over them. And to be honest, the Elks in the first half, I thought, did a pretty good job of establishing the run, which really helped Trey Ford as the game went on. But then again, in the fourth quarter, it was the Bombers raising their level of play and really just taking over the football game. And listen, that's a tough lesson for the Elks to learn. I'm sure they're sick of it at the hands of Winnipeg. I think that's 13 straight. The Bombers have won over Edmonton, which is an unbelievable number in professional football. But listen, it's still very early in the season, but you do need to get some wins. And, you brought this up yesterday. I kind of did a little bit more looking ahead to the schedule. And this game next week at home is absolutely crucial for Edmonton to get into the win column and start getting this thing moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, 100%. Because if you now can't, you can make the argument the last 2 opponents the Elks faced. And week 1, I'll always just say it's weird. Week 1, you never know what's going on. Everyone's growing. It's new season. But the last 2 weeks, they went up against the 2 best teams in the Canadian Football League. And I think right now, and I believe Winnipeg's 1 and Montreal's 2. But you went up against the 2 best teams. You went up against 2 unbelievable defenses. And I saw growth from week to week for this Elks team too. From where they were against Montreal to what they did against Winnipeg, there was growth there. And this team has improved week after week after week. But if you can't go beat Ottawa, and I'm not trying to disrespect Ottawa, but then it's who are you going to beat? Who are you going to have success against? And, you're now 0-4. Last year they went 0-7, the year before 0-9. It's like, okay, well, this is now just going to snowball out of control. And that's what we saw the last few years, that also just mentally this organization, these players, and while some of them and a lot of them haven't been here for that, but it still surrounds this organization, is if you get to 1-4, it's going to be, okay, here we go again. Here we go again. So they desperately need that game against Ottawa. And when you look at it, I know you talked about the Winnipeg yesterday, when we're talking about the line and maybe the Elks covering. The Bombers coming off a little bit more of a shorter week versus the Elks. The Elks play Thursday. They played yesterday. They don't play till next Sunday. It's almost like a mini bye coming up for this franchise and this organization. Ottawa plays on Sunday against Toronto. They then have to fly out here to Edmonton next week. They get the shorter week with the travel. Edmonton does not. You're home. You're taking on a team who doesn't have as much rest as you. I don't know what the status will be of Drew Brown. We'll see for this week and also next week. I think maybe it's looking like he's closer for next week. But you have to now go get that victory. Because if you don't, I feel like they still could go win 10 games this year, looking at their schedule and some of the matchups down the way. But if they don't, I'm sitting here going, okay, are they going to get 3-4 wins this year now? So next week is crucial. But for the Bombers, Calgary next week, I think they have to just be feeling so good right now. Although, another bye week coming up pretty quickly for the Bombers too.
Yeah, weird schedule for Winnipeg this year. And just tons of home and homes. In their first 6 games, or first 7 games, there's 3 back-to-backs against the same opponent. Now, there is a bye week in between the Calgary games. And the fact they're done with BC already, it's one of the most bizarre schedules
You
I've
guys
seen.
also play Calgary 3 times before, it's a back-to-back with Calgary, with the bye in there, back-to-back with Toronto, and then it's Calgary again. What a weird schedule for the Bombers.
And I think the last few years, the Bombers have been pretty fortunate. Later bye to kick things off, often, one right at the end of the season, getting ready for the playoffs, which has been nice. And this year, 2 very early, and then those 3 games against Calgary. I mean, it's just like there's portions of the season where you play a team and then you don't see them again. That isn't the case for Edmonton, though. They're the one team that did get a game popped in. So, yeah, no, they'll get ready for next week, going out the first ever Stampede Bowl.
That's right.
They got the guys that made the Four Nations trophy to make the Stampede Bowl trophy. So,
is the trophy out there?
I think you'll find it online if you
Stampede Bowl trophy. Oh, there is a trophy. Look at that. Actually, that's not bad.
They did a nice job of it.
I'll take that.
Not quite the Banjo Bowl trophy with the banjos on it, of course, but I see. I mean, hey, listen, I love the Canadian Football League innovating and trying to make, and this makes sense for Calgary. I mean, try to take advantage of some people that are get involved in being part of the Stampede. And
there's a lot of out-of-towners that come in, like from around the world, not just Canada, that come to that. So great way to showcase the game. And I will say also, I love the fact that we got this Sunday back in the CFL. I don't know what you come out on. I love Sunday at 5 watching the CFL throughout the summer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wish there was another 3-5 teams just so we could get a doubleheader on Saturday and have a game on Sunday night.
Oh.
But I mean, I'm here for it all. I don't mind the Sunday game. Like, I put it this way, I like watching the Sunday games. I don't like, and the Bombers, I'm not sure have ever even had a Sunday home game. And that's really like, they'd rather have the Thursday night games.
Really?
I think it's easier. Well, like in places like Saskatchewan, for instance.
Yeah.
The Thursday games are problematic because Rider fan more than any travels a long way to get to the games. I mean,
it's not just Regina.
Their population is so spread out amongst the province, and they really are the province's team that, I mean, there's tons of people that are driving 2 and 3, 4, 5 hours in for the game. So when you have the games on Thursday in Saskatchewan, it's a lot more difficult. And, usually the Sunday games will be a little earlier, so you give people time to get back and get ready for the upcoming week. Whereas here in Winnipeg, I mean, for the most part, it's not to say they're not Bomber fans that come in from outside the city, but the population demographics very different. Most people are in the greater Winnipeg area, and they can handle that. So I'm with you. I mean, I think the Sunday one is going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that this is going to be the wake-up call for the rest of the league from the Toronto Argonauts after this ugly 0-3 start that they're in right now. And Matt, I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention, been looking at any updates this morning. The quarterback matchups this week. I mean, we're in the fourth week of the season. It seems like half the league is without their starting QB.
I know. And that's always a fear you have with the CFL is that we've got a nice stable of quarterbacks, but a lot of backups going in. So we got MBT tonight. We've got Jake Mayer tomorrow, maybe Jeremiah Mazzoli tomorrow. We've got Nick Arbuckle on Sunday and possibly Dustin Crum on Sunday as well. So the Elks and Bombers both with their starting quarterbacks, the Ticats with their starting quarterback. Yeah, and potentially BC. Potentially, which, I've gone through a little bit of a range of emotions since we had the lock shop yesterday with the BC Lions. I'm not going to lie. So you and I, we get them in on the lock shop parlay that I threw up because, didn't know where things were heading. We thought maybe Nathan Rourke throwing some balls. I don't know how much you've been following along with this one. Trevor Harris wasn't practicing, concussion protocol. So feeling good about the BC Lions. Then yesterday it comes out, I don't think Nathan Rourke practiced. And Trevor Harris was a full participant in practice. So now I'm sitting there thinking, okay, here we go. Nathan Rourke isn't going to be playing. It's going to be Jeremiah Mazzoli going up against Trevor Harris. I'm just going to double check the Mazzoli or Nathan Rourke was limited. So all 3 days limited, but it was questionable. And then depth chart came out a couple of hours ago or an hour ago. Trevor Harris is not starting. He's off the depth chart. He's not playing. It's going to be Jake Mayer's first start with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Nathan Rourke is listed as a game time decision for tomorrow's game out in Saskatchewan. So I'm feeling good again about BC once again. I've already thrown some money on the money line straight up for the BC Lions away from the parlay that I built. But I'll ask you this. Let's say it's Mazzoli. Mazzoli versus Mayer, BC versus Saskatchewan. How are you feeling about that game now?
I mean, I think that's a real pick'em, a toss-up. I think Jake Mayer is a very, very mid quarterback option. Can he win a game for you? Maybe, if the other aspects of your game are really good. Although, who knows? We haven't really seen him in green. I mean, maybe he pops and does a good job. I think I like BC a little bit more, especially coming off those 2 losses against Winnipeg. I really do think they're going to be in sort of an ornery mood. And listen, if they are able to get Nathan Rourke, I think we all know where we're going to be. But to be honest, I think Masoli still had, like, if you're asking me who would I rather have starting for my team,
I guess that's kind of where this is. Weekend,
I think I'd take Jeremiah Masoli, and I like the weapons that BC has, although Saskatchewan's no joke. And obviously we'll see what their home crowd can do for them and where their defense is at. But it's a work in progress. I think that these are 2 of the best teams in the West right now, along with Winnipeg. And we're going to see whether Saskatchewan can get to 4-0 and put a big gap between them and BC and almost make it a 2-horse race right now at the top of the division. Or does BC get back in it, get their second win, give Saskatchewan their first loss, and make things a lot closer in the West? And I think I'm going with the latter option. I think I'm still going to ride with BC in this game right now. And, at this point, with the way the spreads have gone with the quarterbacks, everything under 3 points, as far as I can tell, I think this is almost the time just to ride with the money line. Like, I do like the Argos as an underdog. The more I think about it, I'm giving more and more credit and the more possibility that the Hamilton Tiger Cats might be able to jump on the Montreal Alouettes tonight. Very interested to see what happens tonight in the Hamilton.
What makes you think that? Because I wonder if it's the same for me.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the fact that there's 5 backups playing, and Bo Levi Mitchell is at home. They're winless. They had that terrible start last year. For the same sort of reason, I think that the Argos are going to come out and be a really desperate team. To me, like, this game for Hamilton, Matt, sounds and feels a lot like the game next week at home for the Edmonton Elks. Like, one that it just feels like you kind of have to have. And listen, they don't have to play Davis Alexander. They're getting a great opportunity. We'll see whether the Ticats can make the most of it. But to me, this is a really tight game that could go either way. Although I do think MBT is a hell of a option for a team to have as their backup quarterback, because he has been able to sling it before and has done well in the league.
Yeah, and that's the one reason, though, with MBTs, I feel like that's the opening for the Ticats, is that we saw a little bit of MBT last week with Montreal here in Edmonton, and we saw how much more that offense could stall a little bit. Now, maybe part of that is they were up big and they didn't need to move the ball as much, but that offense stalls a little bit more, and that's maybe the opening for the Ticats. I've been worried about that one all week just because of no Davis Alexander. And then for the BC lines, like, I once I saw the depth charts today, I got a plus 158 straight up on the money line. The Lions plus 112, plus 110-ish in that area right now. If all of a sudden it comes out at any point that Rourke is starting tomorrow, that number is going to, I think, move a little bit more down. If you believe in the BC lines, like, get acting on that money line, because plus, with the plus money still right now. But yeah, like I'm saying, it's weird seeing full 2.5 for me. When it comes to the CFL lines, the one thing that about these quarterback, it should make these games very interesting. Like, it should make them a little bit more entertaining, just more unpredictable. And to your point, like, that's a great. If you weren't a Bombers or an Elks fan yesterday, even if you're watching a Thursday nighter yesterday, what a great way to start week 4, because that was just a hell of a football game. That was a solid football game, and I think we're in tune for some really good games the rest of this weekend for the Canada Day long weekend. So. This is a great time of the year.
Listen, nice to have a great kickoff to the week like that on Thursday, and people can go to social media and see people talking about a good game as opposed to ripping the Canadian Football League and telling everyone about how much everything sucks. So I appreciated that. Thank you, Elks and Bombers, for setting the tone for week 4 in the Canadian Football League to move forward with a heck of a game to start things off, and 3 really intriguing matchups that to get going. I'm looking right now. We got the Ticats, BC, and Argos all between 2.5 point dogs. Maddie, I'll say this right now. I think at least 2 of the underdogs win, and it would not surprise me. And again, I'm on Montreal minus 2.5, but the more I think about this with MBT and think about this scene tonight in the Hammer, it would not surprise me if all 3 underdogs won. The Argos and Lions on the road and the Ticats tonight. And heck, that's what you want. I mean, interesting games with a lot of intrigue, a lot on the line going in. And, gonna be a fun week. I'm really looking forward to this one tonight, but a heck of a way to start it off last night right here in the Peg.
Without question. I mentioned it is Canada Day weekend that the CFL is celebrating. We also get a chance to watch our Canadian men's national team and the other football on Sunday. Guatemala, Canada, Gold Cup action. Winner will move on to take on the winner of U.S. Costa Rica. Canada and Guatemala's 2 o'clock start Edmonton time, which would be 3 o'clock out in Winnipeg. U.S. is 5, 6 in Winnipeg. Both of those being played in Minneapolis, if I'm not mistaken. Canada minus, I see 323 on the money line, so it's not really there necessarily for a play. When you look at this game, like, do you have anything that you're looking at when it comes to any plays?
Well, there's a lot that I'm looking at, but this is why I was excited to do the show with you today, so I can pick your brain. Like, okay, I don't know anything about Guatemala. I know where Canada's at. They've looked pretty good at times. I expect them to have their best roster set up to kind of play and get some continuity, hopefully going into this USA game. But fill us in on the opponents for our men's national team, Guatemala, who did manage to get through their group.
Yeah, and the group wasn't like, if there was a soft group in this Gold Cup, it was the one Guatemala was in. When you look at that the match of Panama was at the top of that group. They had Guatemala, Jamaica, and Guadalupe. Jamaica, I guess, would be the disappointment of that. They are better than that. Guatemala, as a soccer nation right now, they're ranked 106th in the world. Like, this isn't an opponent that should be a challenge for Canada. I think if I was the manager of Guatemala, I'm looking at Canada and going, okay, how did El Salvador kind of play them? How did Curacao kind of play them? Yeah, we're going to have to get into that physical fight with this team to try to maybe unnerve them or get them off their game. That's the only way that we're going to beat them. So, unfortunately, I think maybe we're in tune or in line for one of those games that just isn't going to be as appealing because the opponent's not necessarily fully trying to win by scoring goals, but trying to win by getting into a fight. And that's just where Canada is right now, and that's the problems with CONCACAF. I look at this and I go, like, with just who Canada is and who Guatemala is. Like, if I'm talking about the world rankings, Honduras is ranked right now in the world. The team that Canada beat 6-0 just a little bit over a week ago, Honduras is ranked 75th in the world. So, like, you're talking about like a 25-point drop when you're taking on Guatemala. Canada should go win this. And Canada should win this by multiple goals, I would think. Again, the only fear I have is that if this is just a good street brawl that comes out, that maybe messes with things. But, like, I also expect and want Canada to come out and be pissed off about their last 2 games where, until the 2 red cards came, like, it wasn't great to start against El Salvador. And they got the draw against Curacao because they weren't good enough. I would like them to come out strong and put up goals that... Let me see what the lines are for spread on this one. Like, because you're not touching Canada at all on the money line. Like, there's just no point in that one. But if you're looking at a spread...
I got him close to even money at minus 1.5.
Yeah, I see minus 111 for Canada win by 2 or more. Like, that's the play. At. That's kind of where you go. Honestly, I don't hate Canada winning by 3 at plus 242. I don't like. I could see a 3-0, 4-1 win for Canada if they really want to go. Like we saw the 6-0 against Honduras. This team has the ability to go score goals against lower opponents. That we have Jonathan David. Like, this is now also a time for Jesse Marsh. He's not playing with the starting 11 like he was through the group stage. He's not going to be just mixing people in. We're going to see as strong of a starting 11 that Jesse Marsh has available to him, which means Jonathan David out there, Promise Davis out there, Ishmael Koney probably in the midfield. Like, this is a team that's going to be able to go and make some things. That's the plus 245 too. That's a little bit maybe more out there, and maybe that's a little bit of a sprinkle play type thing. But Canada minus 1.5 to me is for sure absolutely the play at minus 111. That's the one thing. And then I'll just say, like, before, Jonathan David scoring a goal. I think that's always a nice thing. I'm seeing at plus 120 right now for an anytime goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan David, he is he's that dude when it comes to scoring. That Promise David, and who, by the way, no relation. I did clarify that at the Ukraine game. I'm like, is that his brother or something? No relation. He's gotten in the mix, but who do you think they roll out with? Will it be Laren and Jonathan David, or do they go David up front?
That's a good question. I think Laren is now older. And I wonder if maybe they go Laren David, Jonathan David, that is, with the idea that, like, okay, get Laren, like this, you could kind of maybe save Promise David a little bit for the U.S. game. If like, I don't think you're resting Jonathan David a little bit, or maybe that's the player. Like, I could see maybe in this case, Jesse Marsh tries to get Laren in at the expense of maybe more Promise David because he knows he won't be starting Kyle Laren against the U.S. Get him some minutes, get him some longer minutes in this match where you feel like, yeah, we can go and score and we'll beat Guatemala. And then we'll be ready to go with Promise David, Jonathan David up front against the U.S., with Kyle Laren having just played a fair amount, let's say 60 minutes or something, being the guy that's going to come off the bench on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it is, against the U.S., should that be where it goes. I could see that.
You know, I'm just looking right now. So, yeah, David plus 120. And then Promise David and Laren are the same, just behind David.
Yeah.
What's funny, I didn't know this. I'm just looking at their listing. Laren. First of all, his name is Kyle, C-Y-L-E, which is bizarre.
That's his, yeah.
But Kyle Christopher Laren. I'm not sure if he's now going by both names, but that's what I see. But listen, the guys that I'm interested in sprinkling on for goal scorers, Maddie, Tajon Buchanan, who has been a goal scoring machine really since the Ukraine game that I was at. I mean, he's had a 2-goal game. I think he scored in 3. So I'm very interested in him. And then, I mean, I think I love a lot of players on this team, but the guy that every time I see him play, I like more and more. And I think he might be my guy, the Maritimer, Schaffelberg. Big fan of his. He's been, he really does get involved and seems to be around the football a lot. So either one of those players, but I have a feeling if we're just talking about a goal scorer, just with the heater that Tajon Buchanan's on, I think probably Buchanan at more than 2-1 might be my favorite goal bet.
Here's the one thing I'll say about Jacob Schaffelberg. And there's nothing wrong with this. A lot of players have made great careers this way. I don't like when he starts. I don't like when he's on the pitch to start. I don't feel like he's at his best. I think, and Hernan Salas and I have talked about this week, he's a great sub. He is a perfect sub. 65th minute, you take out someone, you throw him on. Everyone else on the field is a little bit more tired, and he comes out with his burst of energy and his speed. And that's when he's actually at his most dangerous, I've found, with the Canadian team. Whenever he has been in the starting 11, I've always been more often than not walking away a little disappointed in his performance. But when he comes in on a sub, I'm always loving what I see from Jacob Schaffelberg. And that's when he's most dangerous. And that's when he scores his goals. So I hope he's a guy that's on the bench to start the rest of this way for a Gold Cup, because I absolutely love Jacob Schaffelberg as a great bench player. And guys have made careers off of being that and have been praised and are always remember that. I'm a Man U fan. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was one. He was a guy that came off the bench and always would produce. I remember with the women's national team, Kaylin Kyle was more of a woman that come off the bench and produce. Like, that's the players that I love. So I actually do like the Schaffelberg scoring if he's not in the starting 11. That's where I am with him.
That's a bizarre take. Yeah, you have such a lower chance of him scoring.
I know.
If he's not on the roster, on the pitch at the start, limited time. We can agree to disagree on that one. I will. But listen, I mean, the fact that there are other options there is great. I guess we talked about this yesterday. Noah Stachio, which is unfortunate. He's a very, very important part of the attack. But I think they just need to, kind of move on from these last couple of alley fights that they've had in the tournament and get ready to score. And then, what's interesting, Matt, like just while we're looking at these games, so Panama is the shortest favorite of the 4 favorites in the quarterfinals this week. But USA is not that massive a favorite against Costa Rica either. And I think just speaks to, like, I'm seeing about minus 172 on the three-way right now, 3-1 on the draw, Costa Rica 5-1. This just sort of speaks to, like, I know USA's had a couple performances where they've looked a little better, but if you go back over the last number of months, it has been a dreadful run for the U.S. And I think there's a lot of nerves around the U.S. men's national team, considering how they've been embarrassed on home soil multiple times over the course of this past year.
Yeah, and this is why, like, I'll always say moving forward right now, until Sunday comes, like, Canada versus potentially the U.S., like, I'm more confident naturally of Canada moving on, but I could see the upset coming from Costa Rica. I wouldn't be stunned if on Monday, we're looking and saying, well, we're getting ready for, we missed out on Canada, U.S., and it's Canada, Costa Rica. U.S. is a much better Gold Cup than I think most people were expecting that they were going to have coming into this with their form heading into the Gold Cup. But I'm still not sold on the Americans. I'm still not sold when things are going to get tough that this is a team to be scared of. And I think Canada's more scary. And now they have to go up against Costa Rica, who actually has, they're pretty good, Costa Rica as well. So it is interesting, though, as you point that out, though, that only minus 192 for the U.S. on that one. So there's a part of me that does want the U.S. to win so we can get Canada-U.S. But then there's a large part of me, the more suffering the U.S. has to go through, the happier I am. So lose to Costa Rica and let them lose their minds over that one. Also, Canada, like, leading up to the World Cup, they announced yesterday that they'll be going and taking on Colombia, who are ranked 14th in the nation right now in a friendly in October. So they've actually got if they could get through Guatemala, let's say they get to a Gold Cup final. I'm not going to say they win the Gold Cup final, but let's say they get there. They could have a nice little run throughout the rest of 2025 as they get ready for the World Cup next year, where they take on the U.S., they take on the Americans. They've got Romania, who are ranked 45th. They've got Wales, who are ranked 29th. But two UEFA nations to get ready for the World Cup. They have an opponent that they need to announce in October out in Montreal. And then yesterday they announced Colombia. So a nice little stretch for the Canadians men's national team. I'll give Canada Soccer credit right now. They're doing a nice job filling out a fixture schedule coming up for Canada to best prepare for a World Cup when you don't have to go and qualify. So again, Canada, Guatemala, 2:00 Edmonton time, 3:00 Winnipeg time on Sunday, with the chance to move on to the semifinals of the Gold Cup. I do want to get to Money in the Bank for you. I don't know if you're ready to have some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, we can. Well, it's the Night of Champions. It is in, and it's funny, it is in Saudi Arabia. And by the way, Penner's Pancakes wants to see this shirt. Check this out. This is the excellence of execution. And yes, that is Bret Hart putting the sharpshooter on an octopus. No idea what the artist was putting, but I could not get it. And a quick hi to a bunch of the Big Maple loves it too. Big guy, Tyson Ducharme. Some of the WSTers we saw at the game last night. I'm in rough shape today. I'm not surprised. That goes for a lot of people that were at that game last night. And I see Phyllis and the rest of the crew. That is a pure beauty. Yeah, if you want to, just before we move off this though, I just want to ask you, Matt. I mean, first of all, I just put together, I cooked up a little something for the weekend. As I said, I'm very nervous about this Montreal-Hamilton game, so I think I'm going to not put that in. But we like BC. I've been on Toronto all week. I'm going to ride with Toronto. But BC money line, Argos money line, and Canada minus 1.5. Like Canada win by 2. Yeah, it comes in around 8-1. So I don't know if you want to cook that one up. Unfortunately, because the Elks did not cover for us, we're moving on to our next opportunity to hit it for the lock shop. So that might be something people want to jump on. But as I mentioned, so USA, Panama's the shortest favorite, then is USA, then Mexico against Saudi Arabia, and then Canada, the biggest favorite. Do you foresee any of these games being an upset? Are you worried about any of these teams not being able to win in 90 minutes? Because those four together, you're looking around 4-1 if you just parlay those four favorites to win in 90. Certainly, I'm feeling Canada will be there. you look at the number for Mexico, and they are the favorite right now in the Gold Cup. You would think that they'd be able to get it done against Saudi Arabia. Although, leaning on my World Cup experience, Maddie, maybe the most vivid memory I have outside of being in the stadiums was being in that sort of central area in Doha at the viewing party and seeing Saudi Arabia beat Argentina in the first game. That was an absolute scene, craziness. So I've always thought that the Saudis were a little frisky. I'm not expecting them to beat Mexico, but would you do that? Or is there one or two of these games where you think that could be going to extra time, potentially penalties, and we're not getting it in 90?
I think Mexico and Canada are in 90. I'm with you. I wasn't there, obviously, but I'll always remember Saudi Arabia having drawn Argentina. That's something I'll always remember when I see Saudi Arabia. But this tournament, 1-1-1. They barely beat Haiti 1-0. They lost to the Americans 1-0, and then tied Trinidad and Tobago 1-1. Like they're not beating them. And Mexico's actually just looks a lot better. I like Canada against Guatemala. I don't know what to make of Honduras because they lost 6-0 to Canada, but then they went out and they got through the group. They got past El Salvador, they got past Curacao, and they moved on. And they can be a little difficult, but Canada is a pretty good squad. But I could also just see that one. Like I could see Panama moving on, but I could see it in extra. I also just with who the Americans are, like I could see a 0-0 match going through 90. And I still see the Americans winning, but I could see that one potentially being or like a 1-1 going into extra and America's losing their mind and they get through, but America doesn't like it, make it easy. Like, as I said, they're looking a little bit better. Trinidad and Tobago, whatever, 5-0, but they also only beat Saudi Arabia 1-0. They got past Haiti 2-1. Like, I don't think they're fully in a great place. So I think when it comes to Costa Rica, I could see them forcing at least extra time against the Americans. So those are two that I would look at and go, I could at the very least, like if you go draw on either of those two, I kind of like those.
All right, that makes sense. So I'm going to roll Canada -1.5. And then if you want to throw those two football games on, you can get a pretty good one because both of those games are on plus money. Yes, the WWE is going to Saudi. There was questions as to whether this would actually go on this weekend. But it is happening. There is some stuff in the Middle East apparently going on. I wasn't aware of that, but there's it's been a hot spot for a lot of stuff. But wrestling fans, don't worry, it's still happening. Now, here's the thing: it's fun to go through these, but I think when you look at the odds, you get a pretty good idea about how things are shaping up. Most likely for SummerSlam. Rhea Ripley's taking on Raquel Rodriguez. Rhea's a -500 favorite. Kind of hard to go against Rhea now that she's back, and they'll be building her up for a big match at SummerSlam. I haven't been following Sami Zayn, Karrion Kross, to be honest. I was a little surprised to see that part of it, but Sami is a guy with Middle Eastern roots. I think he'll be incredibly popular there. He's done such a great job for the brand, doing everything. This is a good chance for Sami to actually get his win, and I think the odds indicate that as he's -357, where Kross is, around +235. The King of the Ring tournament final is Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, and again, we're talking -1,000. I mean, it seems like it's all but done that Rhodes is going to win, and he'll be going up against John Cena for the championship at SummerSlam. And then, of course, Cena is an even bigger favorite over CM Punk in the finals. So, I mean, there's a hard spot to really find value. The two matches that have more normal lines, the Queen of the Ring tournament final, Jade Cargill is -303, Asuka's +200. Asuka's a huge star, but I really do think that, these tournaments are usually made to kind of get a star over or push them to the next level, and it certainly seems Jade is that person. And then the final match that we have the number for, the WWE United States Championship. It's Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Fatu is the guy, they've broken these guys up. They're fighting each other right now. Solo's sort of been turned, like after being this Hellraiser and, dominating guy when he first came in, has kind of been reduced to a bit of the butt of the jokes, and it's kind of a bit of a comedy act right now. So I have a hard time finding any good plus money on the Night of Champions card right now, but it should be fun. And then, of course, we get into the big one where I think we'll have a little more intrigue as to who's winning once we get to SummerSlam a little later on.
I got some breaking news from the National Hockey League. Montreal Canadiens acquiring Noah Dobson in a sign and trade with the Islanders.
Wow.
8-year contract extension, a 9.5 AAV as part of this trade. Kevin Weeks first to report. I don't know the details beyond that, but Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens in a sign and trade 8-year contract with a 9.5 AAV. So that is just happening according to Kevin Weeks, and Chris Johnston and Elliot Freeman are also confirming it. But yeah, that's the breaking news from the NHL. It is draft day out in the NHL. Also, a new CBA extension today. I don't know if you've seen the details of the CBA breakdown from.
The CBA, we've been talking about it the last couple of days.
It's now official.
Quickly,
go ahead on the Dobson.
Where were the Habs picking? I just have to get this NHL draft order, because
so
what's interesting,
they had
about
16 and 17. So they got 16 from Calgary. I'd have to look what trade that was, but they also had 17.
Now, I do wonder whether a pick or both of those picks will be involved in this deal.
Well, I know the Islanders are trying to trade up.
Yeah, well, exactly. And this is what I'm thinking, that James Higgins, who's got Long Island roots, was thought to maybe be the number 1 pick last year, but has dropped to probably, we've seen him mocking anywhere between kind of 6 and 8 right now. You know, does Montreal get enough draft capital that they could potentially move into, say, the top 7 and get Higgins after they pick Schaefer at number 1? Interesting deal. I was kind of surprised that they were moving on from Dobson, but I often never really understand exactly what the Islanders are up to, managing to do everything it takes to stay right there in the mushy middle of the National Hockey League. Will they make the playoffs? Will they not make the playoffs? Stay tuned till game 82. Now game 84 to find out.
Who's more stuck in their ways? Is it the New York Islanders or is it the Buffalo Sabres?
Well, you know what? Listen, I know the Sabres are getting a lot of heat on it. And listen, it's just reaction. I don't think people are, Matt, the scarcity of 6'4", right shot, top 4 defensemen that can put up, well, I think Kesselring had 29 points last year. That's tough to play against. Like, to me, Buffalo needed to change, and there's a bunch of talented guys that'll go in there. And I mean, Paterka is a guy that, yeah, he can score, very easy to play against. Like, I mean, to me, it was a ballsy move for them based on the other offers that we've heard that were given to Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this one actually, in the long run, ends up looking pretty good for the Sabres at the end of it all. So I'm not doing the piling on. I will admit, when I first saw it, the sticker shock was, what are they doing? But the more I think about it, with what they've done, other than just owners being cheap and getting a player that's $1.4 million and another guy that's $900K, I do think, especially on that blue line, pairing Kesselring up with either Dahlin or Owen Power in the top 4 could be something that actually helps them win games. And that's what that team needs to do. So we'll see what's going on. Very quickly, how's the old nasty chat been with the Trent Frederick signing? I heard Latino Heat was a little spicy on it. I'm looking forward to that take. But 8 years with a no move, almost $4 million a year, it's kind of a shocking deal, to be honest.
It's one of those 8 years is not for a third liner. 8 years is not something that you're giving to a guy that should be making. He's 3.85. That's not what an 8-year deal is for. 8-year deal is for a Connor McDavid. 8-year deal is for a Noah Dobson. You know, a third liner should not be getting. And I get that the argument is bringing down the contract, but it's like, I would think that if you're going to spread out over 8 years, this would be closer to like 3.25 or something like that then. But then, so he takes 8, he gets 3.85 though out of it. You would think, okay, well, you can't also give him a no move clause. And no, Here it is, 4 years of a no move clause. Then year 5-6, it's a 10-team no trade, and then year 7 and 8, it's a 20-team no trade. The problem I have with this is that they're looking back at not what Trent Frederick was this year because he was banged up, but it was the 2 years prior, which is 17, 18 goals. So is this guy a 17 to a 20 goal scorer? Sure. And then if he's 17 to 20, the money is pretty good there. Where I look at this though and go, and I think some nasties are like, let's say Trent Frederick actually doesn't work in Edmonton because now he was injured, but didn't really do anything with the Oilers this season when he came from the deadline. But what if he actually, like some players just don't fit with teams? Yeah. What if this is a player that doesn't fit with the Edmonton Oilers? How are you getting out of this deal after year 2? Like, let's say through 2 years, this is a guy that's putting up 7, 8 goals instead and just hasn't fit into what the Oilers are looking for. You're now, and I don't care that the cap's going up. Well, like, because now you've just wasted some salary cap and you can't get rid of it unless you're going to buy it out type thing, or you're going to commit and move.
Have a 12-year cap hit.
Exactly. So, like, that's where I think people are. The no move doesn't help. The Oilers gave everyone they signed last year a no move or a no trade clause of some sort. It doesn't help, but it's the 8 years. I think if people were talking, like, I think even if it was $4 million a year, but you're saying it's a 5-year deal, I think Oilers fans, like, okay, I can live with that. But it's the fact that it's the year, it's the 8 that people are, what's going on here. So it's it'll be an interesting one to see.
More term, less AAV. I guess Frederick's set up for a while. And yeah, the one thing I'll say is I wouldn't judge Frederick based on what you saw of him in an Oiler uniform because he was hurt when he came in, really didn't get a chance to play very much. He'll have a full training camp. And listen, he's a guy that I think can help you win, can be an effective guy in the playoffs, especially with Kane moving on. I think his role is going to be more important. But I will admit, I mean, giving players like that sort of term and no move.
Better work out.
Who doesn't get a no move now, basically, if Frederick's getting on an 8-year deal?
And in the NBA, it's 2 players right now, I believe, with LeBron James and for some reason Bradley Beal. Quick rundown of the CBA, and then I'll let you go for WST. 84-game regular season schedule. Contract limits 6 for free agents, 7 for players re-signing. Deferred salary not allowed in contracts. Signing rights to draft picks uniform across leagues. Full-time emergency backup within organizations. Team cannot mandate a dress code when arriving or departing. Also, though, playoff game rosters must be cap compliant. That is in the CBA. So that doesn't start, though, until September of 2026. So next year, people will still be able to execute non-cap compliant playoff rosters.
Investigation going into the Oilers and their former player Evander Kane when it comes to manipulation of the LTIR.
Last I heard, it's on hold, but of course the Oilers. Of course it's the Oilers that it happens. Haas, what's coming up on WST beyond the marble races?
Yeah, well, we'll break down last night's big win for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Jeff Hamilton's going to jump on the program, and we'll also get ready for tonight's round 1 with Stephen Ellis of Daily Faceoff, a little draft talk as well. Talk a little baseball with Andrew Collier, the Fishback this weekend, and set up an important before marbles for any of you WSTers. Tune in. We'll give you details on how to get one of the remaining seats on the Huss bus to the Labor Day Classic in Regina. So
I'll be
going to make all that happen today. And yes, marbles, ESTers, you're all invited. Still waiting for the first ever EST winner of the marble race. Been a couple close calls. So we'll look forward to seeing you there right around 3 p.m. Winnipeg time.
Haas, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll chat at some point next week.
You bet. Take it easy, pal.
There's Haas with the WST. Go check him out. Him and Remus. WST starting in 4 minutes time on their YouTube channel. This is the Lock Shop presented by Play Alberta. Just want to get into the EST specials that we have up as Dusty has thrown some up there. He's also thrown up the Jays Play of the Day. That Reed will get to go on with the Reed Wilkins show. But you can get an early look at it if you go to Play Alberta and click on EST specials. Early bird bet, Ticats plus 3.5. Bo Levi Mitchell 275 plus passing yards. That's plus 142. Dusty's Play of the Day is Roger McQueen and Victor Eklund, both to be drafted in the top 10. That is plus 330. And then my Lock Shop partner parlay from yesterday is still up there, which was the Als to win, BC to win, both on the money line, and Argos and Red Blacks to be under 53.5 points. That is plus 610. I'll maybe see if I could put something up for a Lock Shop parlay when it comes to Canada and maybe some stuff with the CFL games this weekend too. Maybe it's Canada, BC, and I like Ottawa still more. I'll see what I'll do with that one. Thank you to everyone for tuning into the Lock Shop. right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta on the station. Coming up next, it's the Oil Stream. It's Tommy and it's Reed. We got EST afternoons. We got the Reed Wilkins Show until 6 o'clock. Reminder, tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we got Hello Hockey. Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning, we got the VIP Golf Show. On behalf of Haas, I am Matt. Thanks for tuning into the Lock Shop. Enjoy your Canada Day weekend. I will talk with you on Monday. Have a great one. Lock Shop or Oil Stream coming up in just a few minutes.